Welcome to Word for Law Offices. My name is Rick Kamara with Learnit. This training is interactive, so each lesson I'm going to ask you to pause the video. Then you take a few minutes to practice what you've learned and come back, join us for more learning. In these upcoming lessons, you're going to be learning many time-saving features for formatting your pleadings, agreements, and other long documents. Then proofing documents and creating templates. Well, let's begin with exploring the Word interface to have a clear understanding of the common names and tools used in Word. Let's begin Lesson 1, Overview of the Word interface. The previous interface before the new ones that we have now from the newer versions was the menus and toolbars, and now we have tabs and ribbons. And the tabs and ribbons at one point were called Results-Oriented Interface. So let's take a look at the ribbon. The upper left corner of my screen, I'll begin to draw an item. So the ribbon is the rectangular bar across the top of the screen. Within the ribbon are tabs that you can use. Also, at the top of the ribbon, and those tabs are going to designate which category of commands you'll be in. So as you look at the tabs, you just click on the other tabs like Insert or Design or Layout or References, Mailings and Reviews, and lots of the different places you'll see that we'll be using in these trainings. And so tabs and ribbons, and on the ribbon, and I'll go back to the Home tab and just give you a sample. There's groups like the Clipboard group or the Font group or the Paragraph group. And so those basic groups are here, and not every group has what's known as a dialog box launcher. You know, the tiny little arrow that you're looking at on the right side of each of those groups I drew. So those are dialog box launchers. Those are tiny little arrows. And what that means is there's more information lurking behind. So in the group, I can click on the dialog box launcher and launch, in this case, the font dialog box. And with the font dialog box, you're going to see so much more, because things like, you don't see the things you see like subscript and superscript here, but you don't see small caps, all caps, or hidden text, or double strike through. Just lots of different things that are not visible there. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. So there's more information lurking behind in the dialog box launchers. The other thing about the ribbon is you also have expand and collapse tools. Often we do this by mistake, so I'm going to double click on my Home tab and collapse the ribbon so the commands are not visible. But if I want to just single click on the Home tab, I can see my commands. If I was choosing to use one or not, then I can go back and click on it again. Or if I click down in the document, it would hide the ribbon. So the idea is to get yourself some more screen space, like when you're on laptops and those types of things. So I'll double click the Home tab back, and that collapses, that expands it and locks it into place. Now the formal place to expand and collapse the ribbon is in the upper right corner of my screen, and you'll see that up there where a tiny little square with an arrow inside of it. Now that is the expand and collapse ribbon, so display options. And so we'll click on it, and you'll see that right now I'm showing tabs and commands. So a lot like when I double click, you'll see just show tabs, and that goes back to that view. And if I want to collapse it even further, I can auto hide the ribbon. So there's no title bar, no ribbon. I got much more screen space, and you still see that the arrow is up there. I can click on the arrow again and go back to show tabs and commands and lock it all back in place. Now the one tab I hadn't talked about yet was the File tab. Now the File tab takes you what's known as Backstage. You can go to Backstage from the File tab, and that tab up here is right next to the Home tab. So when you click on the File tab, it'll take you to the Backstage view. Backstage at Home shows recent documents or pinned documents that I might have pinned that I need to get access to quicker. I also have some templates that I've used above the top here. If I went to the new command back there, I would see a blank document, some templates I've worked in, and lots of other templates that are available to you. In all the years Microsoft's had Word, you go to File and New to find all of your templates. You'll see the Open commands, which you'll see recent documents and places where you want to open up files from, like your OneDrives and your SharePoint sites. You go to the info group. There's a lot of stuff hidden back in here. You see the file properties. If you wanted to display a little more about advanced properties in the file, you'll see them there. But you'll see the file properties. And you also see what's known in things like protection, like protect the documents. Checking for issues is a great place when you want to, if you're reviewing documents, you can go to inspect the document for hidden things, and it's really a nice new option that allows you to clear everything that's hidden and get rid of all the stuff that might be in your properties or that might be hidden text or just all kinds of personal information that you do not want available in the document. So it's a great place to learn about. We will talk about that sometime in this lessons. So you'll see, how do you save a copy? Do you want to save specific? There's different ways, different types of files that you can save things as, like macro-enabled documents or the older versions of documents, or save things as a template, PDF files, XPS files, all in here. And you can print. You notice that print, preview, and print are all together. Have printer properties and page setup. You can do all the page setup things in one level of screen and one type of a screen here to get it all done at once. If you want to share documents, you can set up your sharing with your Microsoft accounts. And you can export to PDF or XPS documents. You can transform documents to, say, like webs, and you can also just close from here. But the big thing in here is also options at the very bottom. If you go to the very bottom in options, these are Word options. This is where you're going to be able to change how things are. You have your username information. Mostly this is usually controlled by your organizations, but you'll have displays and proofings. You'll find your AutoCorrect options are in here. Lots of your custom dictionaries, all in here in options. How often you want things to save, or how to set up your auto recover. Advanced options. So maybe you like a little bit more options for how many recent documents can be displayed. This is the limit at 50. I'm going to take mine back down to the default of 25. That's normally how it's set. So Word options under the file, stage, background at the very bottom. One of the best tools that comes in the Microsoft interface is the Quick Access toolbar. You'll see that at the upper left corner of my screen, the Quick Access toolbar. Now, right now it has very little on it, so I'm going to go ahead and go through some of the processes to add commands to what's known as the Quick Access toolbar. So I'll go ahead and click on that drop-down arrow. You'll see it says automatically save is turned on. All these that have checks are already on the Quick Access toolbar. So if I just want to use something from this list, like make a brand new Word document, that's just a blank normal document. Use open an existing document. So if I want to put some more commands, like print, preview, and print. So these are common things you would use and have them on your Quick Access toolbar. Another way to add commands to your Quick Access toolbar is just to right click away. So an example of something you might use a lot for proofing is the show hide button. So if I hover over the show hide button, I'm going to right click on that command. So when I right click on the show hide button, it says add to the Quick Access toolbar. Now that'd be a left click, and then I add that command up there. And so you can use the same thing. You can go to any of the ribbons. I can go to say I insert a lot of pictures. Maybe I want to go to right click, insert pictures, add to Quick Access toolbar, and there we go. So I can do all kinds of things, inserting pictures. Another way to add things to the Quick Access toolbar, or to organize the Quick Access toolbar, if you click the drop down arrow next to it, an easy way to get to the formal place is all the way down to where it says more commands. And so down in there, you're back in where we just visited, Word options for the Quick Access toolbar. And if I want to move something in here, I can say I want to move insert pictures before the show all. So I can just use the arrows to move them up or down, place them where you would like. If I want to add something here from, say, like popular commands, maybe something like commands not in the ribbon. So you don't see all the commands that come with the program on the ribbon. So this is an option to do something like, maybe you want to do something like Let's see. Not all the commands are necessarily on the ribbon, so commands not in the ribbon, I often go to this one called Speak, and I'll add that and click OK. And we've added somewhere in there Speak to the toolbar. Let me go back in there and just see where I went. We added Speak. I should say OK. It should be after Insert Pictures. And there's nothing, it's up there, but there's nothing to speak in. So when you have words or text somewhere in a document, you can actually find it and you can have it speak. And if I wasn't plugged in to a microphone, you'd be hearing the words right now.
Overview of word interface ribbon, tabs, etc.
So we've added 3 different ways to the quick access toolbar. We elemented things from a list. We want to right click on a command on a list if you wanted to add it to quick access toolbar. And it was also, we chose to go the formal way down to more commands, allowing you to use word options in the quick access toolbar. This is where we can reorganize elements on there. If you just click and use the up and down arrows. And then you can also just add from any of these lists that you have over here, anything that you want. The thing about it is, it's no longer quick access when you put too many things up there. So to keep it simple, keep the common things you work in up there for the quick access toolbar. So take some time, pause the video, practice what you've learned, and then come back for more. We'll see you in a little while. Welcome back. Let's get started with lesson 2, using styles to format long documents. I'm going to have us open up a couple of files, and we're going to be working with styles. So let's go to File and Open. And I'm just going to my browser where my files are stored. So find your class folders. And when you go into the class folder, I'm going to open up Complaint for Divorce. Complaint for Divorce. In the second file, I'm going to go to File and Open. Hildebrand Draft. Hildebrand Draft. Okay. Now you'll notice that the Hildebrand Draft document is totally unformatted. If I navigate over to the Complaint for Divorce file, that has formatting, but it's manual formatting. In other words, you select the words, you click on bold, center a line, and that's, Times New Roman size 12. So everything's manual. I would click on the next words. If I didn't use the format painter, I would have to click on it and just do the same thing, bold, italic. So it's a lot of work to just manually format it. Styles are a big time saver because styles are a combination of formats like you see in, say, a heading 1 style or a title style. Basically, the selected text is a combination of formats, which is bold, center align, Times New Roman size 12. But if you call it a name, like a style name that you call it, it uses all of those particular formatting options every time you use that style name. So let's take a look at another document. Let's go back to Hildebrand Draft. And in this totally non-formatted file, we're going to apply styles and show you how easy it is, quick it is to format a document with a style. Now, what I'm going to do first is show you the style group. So the style group is up on the top of the middle portion of the top of my ribbon. I'm going to go ahead and show you the style group up here in the red box. So those are previously formatted styles. So basically styles that are available to you already. And you're just looking at one line. So I'm going to go ahead and then select what's called the More menu. And the More menu will allow me to expand that so you can see all the the styles that are available in this particular document. So Down below that More menu is a tiny little arrow. That's called the dialog box launcher. So in the dialog box launcher over here, it looks like they don't do anything, but if you click on them with your mouse, now we brought up what's called the styles box. My styles box right now is docked. I'm going to click the title bar of it with my mouse and drag it out. And now it's a floating styles box where yours might look like. If you click and drag it towards the right from the heading, click on the heading and drag it with your left mouse, drag it until it changes shape and it docks itself over to the right side of my screen. So that's a nice box to have handy. At the very bottom, you'll see 3 icons down there. And those 3 icons are most common places you're going to be down here. Those are the places you focus. So there's a lot of space in here until we start seeing more styles. But down on the bottom in that red box, you'll see the 3rd icon to the right. The 3rd icon to the right is called Manage Styles. When I click on that, I'm in the Manage Styles dialog box. And so in here, I have tabs at the top. I want to make sure I'm looking at Recommend tab. And these are on alphanumeric order. So if I scroll up on my list, I'm going to go right into the headings and I'm going to find heading. So heading 1 is available to me up in my styles group, but the other headings aren't because they're hidden. So I'm going to select heading 2 and then show. I'll click the show button. So I'm going to select heading 3 and I'm going to click show. So this is going to make them visible for me to be able to use in this document. Heading 4 and I'll show. That's enough headings for me for now. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK. So now you'll see headings, more headings up in my styles group and also more headings over there in my styles box to the right. So now I'm going to apply some of these styles. I'm going to click in my draft Hildebrand Properties title, and there's a title style that I'll use from my styles group. So I hover over any of these and it shows you what it's going to look like, give you a preview, but I'm going to just click title and use that. I'm going to click on the word overview. You notice I'm not selecting it. All I need to do is click in the words and apply the heading 1 style. So the heading 1 style in this particular document, it's bold, left aligned, Calibri light, size 16. So that's how this document was modified for heading 1. So the heading 2 style, I'm going to click in our description of our firm and apply the heading 2 style. That particular style it's blue, it's left aligned, bold italic, Calibri font, size 14. So those are specific tiles in this particular document. So style, sorry. I'm going to go to our corporate philosophy. I'll click in that heading and I'll change that to heading 2. So I know the other 2 headings down below on this page should be heading 2 as well. So since I just made our corporate philosophy heading 2, I'm going to show you a shortcut. I'm going to click in our goal and I'm going to use my F4 function key, which repeats my last action. I'm going to hit F4 and all of a sudden our goal is now heading 2. I'll click once again in our company affiliations, hit my F4 function key and use heading 2 style. So F4 repeats the last action. So you're doing some styling. You can use that F4 function key to speed things up a little bit. Now, if I go to our services, I'm going to go to heading 1. I'll select selling your home, make it heading 2. So easy to apply these. Buying a home, I'll hit F4 function key, repeat my last action. Guarantee, F4, repeats the last action. Locations, I'm going to make that maybe heading 3. So control home will take me all the way back to the top. And now I'm looking at what was not formatted to have a little basic formatting to it, gives it a much more pleasing look. So now that we've applied styles, let's look at creating a style. I'm going to go to the top of the document under the draft, which is already a style. I'm going to click in there and change that to normal, back to what it was before. And so I'm going to select the words. And then now I'm selecting everything because I want to format it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to format it to make it a red font. I want to make it center aligned and I want to make it size 14 or size 16, say. So that's a selected format. If I click away, I'm going to make sure I'm going to select it because I want that selected in order for it to be created. So I'm selecting the words with a combination of formats. It's red font, Times New Roman, size 16, center align. So I'm going to go over to the More menu on the Styles box, and I'm going to choose Create a Style. Since I have everything selected with all the combination, it picks it all up. All I need to do is rename it. So I'm going to call this the Rick style. And okay. And so now in my styles group, you're going to see the Rick style up there. Also over in my styles box on the right side of my screen in the styles panel, you'll see the Rick style. So this style called Rick is only available in the Hildebrand draft document. It's only available in this document. But I'm going to show you a little trick here, how you can copy a style from one document to the next, because all styles are uniquely used in those documents. Even the built-in styles that Microsoft provides for you in the styles group up here, they can be the same names like heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, but they can actually have a different style to them. And we'll learn more about that as we go. So the idea is in this particular Hildebrand draft file, there is a new style called Rick. I want to copy that style to another file like the one we opened before. So I'm going to go down to the third button at the lower portion of my screen, the Manage Styles button, the lower right corner on the bottom of the Styles box. I'm going to click that and bring up Manage Styles. When I'm in here, I'm also going to go down to Import Export, the lower left corner of my screen. It'll be Import Export. And so this comes up. It's called the Organizer. The Organizer, it has the Hildebrand draft document I'm in, and it always comes up. The other document would be normal, which is your normal template. I don't like to change my normal template in Word, so I'm going to open up another file to copy the Rick style too. So I'm going to close the normal template, open up a regular file, and in that file I'm going to find the other one that we used earlier today. I need to be able to see everything. So I'm going to Complaint for Divorce. And so that's the file I want to copy the Rick style to. So you'll notice right now there's no Rick style in there. I'm going to go over to the Rick style on the left side. I'll click Rick from Hildebrand Draft and copy it over to Complaint for Divorce. So now if I scroll down, you'll see that I've copied the Rick style over there. So I have it in Hildebrand Draft now, and if I navigate over to the Complaint for Divorce, you'll see that in that file also. Now, as you're working in styles, I'm going to navigate back to the Hildebrand Draft document. In looking at the general formatting and styles used in any documents, what we're trying to do is basically fix or either edit documents or create new documents and modify them quickly. And one of the best tools for doing this is knowing what's already in the document. Sometimes it can be very confusing if someone hit the space bar, the tab key, and sometimes you can see that with just turning on Reveal Format. But you see very little there. And so the place to go is in the Styles box to the lower right corner of my screen. I want to go to the center icon called the Style Inspector. I want to click the Style Inspector, and when that's turned on, I want you to see that if I expand the screen a little bit, there's a little font with a magnifying glass called Reveal Formatting. So I'm going to click Reveal Formatting. So that puts a panel to the right called Reveal Formatting. Reveal Formatting, what it does is it allows you, wherever you click on the document, if I click in, say, the paragraph for overview, if I click on the paragraph, it's going to tell me the total paragraph. It's going to tell me what font it's using, the language, the alignment, any indentations, if it's a part of any section. If I click on the title of something, say like a heading 2, it tells me what heading 2 is, or if it's using heading 2. In a lot of cases, you don't know how was the spacing done. There's lots of different reasons to turn this on, so when you're really having trouble making some changes and modifying, this is the place to go. reveal formatting. I'm going to close this. And I'll close my style box. So I'm going to close Hildebrand Draft. And we're back at the complaint for divorce file. So in this particular file, it had some formats, but none of them were using styles. So if I was to select, say, District Court, you can see in my styles box that nothing was applied here. So I'm looking at Times New Roman, size 12, bold, and center align combinations. So somebody went in here and they selected each element of those text and made it bold, center align, Times New Roman, size 12. If you wanted to do this an easier way, I would say do something like this. So I'm gonna unformat back to normal. I'm gonna unformat say Clark County, Nevada, and I'm gonna borrow this format using the format painter. So this is kind of a trick. If you select District Court, I'm looking at so it's bold, center align, Times New Roman, size 12. To the left of my bold sign in the upper left corner of my screen, you'll see the format painter. So when I have something selected, and if I double click on the format painter, I can come down here and I can format Clark County, Nevada, and it's going to copy that format. So the idea here is the format, if you double click the format painter, you can keep using it. If you single click it, it only paints one time. To turn it off, you can hit your escape key or just click the format painter. Now that's a nice little tip, but even if you're going through 20 or 30 pages, 100-page policy and procedure files, you may not want to have to go through that. That's where styles is more beneficial. Because the styles that we created, and let me go back to the other document where we actually worked in, Hildebrand Draft, and just do a quick summary of the benefits. So we applied these formats that I don't think I was really clear about the benefit of it. So here we are. So the description of our firm, I'm in there for heading 2. So now I go over to heading 2. I'm going to close the reveal formatting box here. And I'm going to use heading 2 in the style box. So when heading 2 comes up, I can make a modification. So my boss decided that they need me to modify heading 2. So it's still going to be called heading 2, but I'm going to make just a little modification. So I'll go down to format and border, and I'll make a bottom border. And I'll make that bottom border maybe the same color as blue of some sort. Okay. So when I'll click on once I make the color blue, I have to click on the line to make it blue. So now I'll click OK. And so all of my heading 2s are going to take on the new style, the new look, once I click on it. So I've modified heading 2 through this entire document, wherever heading 2 was used. And that's the major benefit of using styles, a combination of formats. I'm going to close this file and take us back to complaint for divorce. Now in here, you see regular formats, and we use the format painter a little bit, but what if I was to just select this already formatted element? And I know I'm using it in here 2 or 3 times already, so why not just select that? And then I'm going to go ahead and create a new style. So I'm going to click the More menu and choose Create a Style. And I'm going to call this Pleading Header. Pleading Header. I'm going to click OK. And it's going to be using all of those styles. So if I was to take these and convert them back to, say, normal, convert everything back to normal, there we go. And then I could just click on Clark County, Nevada, and choose my new pleading. I can click in the middle of complaint for divorce, and I can choose pleading. It's so much easier than either the format painter or just manually doing them. And so that's a simple little style creation in here for this document. You can also create styles for double spacing. See the double spacing, you can see that this text down there is double spaced. I got there from the paragraph dialog box launcher. Looking at that, since I've clicked down in here, I know that it's double spaced. So I have clicked down where the plaintiff is. Everywhere to go. So we do a little formatting and pleading. We learn styles. We learned how to create styles. We learned how to modify styles. We learned how to add styles. And we learned how to copy styles and put them in the documents. So let's take a few moments, pause your video, practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's begin Lesson 3, using the navigation pane for efficient navigation. Now, the navigation pane is not visible right now, so I'm going to go to my View tab and find under my Show group the checkbox for navigation pane. Previous versions of Word had something called the document map, and that was replaced with the navigation pane. They both tend to work the same way, and really the lesson here is about headings, using heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. So when we worked with heading styles before, you can see different heading styles in the documents. This particular document only has heading 1. Now this document is not using any styles at this moment, so when I look at the navigation pane, I'm not seeing any headings to navigate with. So I'm going to have us open another document. So I'm going to go to File and Open to find my basic storage of the class files. And I'll do that. Desktop under Learnit, and here we go. So I'm looking for the statement of work and opening up the statement of work file. This file, you notice the navigation pane is still open and the headings have different chapters in them basically. So I can click on each one of these. You notice if I click on the period of performance right in my document, and if I just click with my mouse on that heading style, you can see that it's a heading style now, and that it's highlighted period performance. Now I can use the navigation pane by going to scope of work, or finding the client responsibilities, or going to completion criteria. They do not all have to be called a heading 1, as long as they're using a heading 1, heading 2, or heading 3, a number next to the heading, it'll still work. Watch if I change the heading at the bottom of my list, and I format, I'll navigate to there, project change, and I'll click in the project change text, and I'll just change that to heading 2. So if I change that to heading 2, and I navigate back up to period performance, I can go down to project change procedures. So it's still heading 1. So let me change that to heading 2. There we go. I needed to move to make that happen. So now it really is a true heading 2. I'll navigate back up to period of performance and back down to heading 2, project change, and you can see that it'll navigate me to that new named heading. So the navigation pane can be very useful in navigating through large documents like policy procedures. It might be 200 or 300 pages. So I'm going to close the navigation pane and go back to the View tab. And you'll see under the group, under Show, I'm going to check the navigation pane to bring it back. So take a few moments, pause the video, practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some new learning. Welcome back. Let's get started with Lesson 4. Format indented quotes with styles. Open the Statement of Work Modified file. So I'm going to do that, and we'll open it together, finding where our files are located. And we're looking at the file called Statement of Work Modified. statement of work modified. You noticed we looked at statement of work earlier in the navigation, and there was a little bit of tables and stuff built in here. So I modified this document to make it easier just to work with quotes so we don't have to undo a lot of things. And I'm going to start, so this selected area is where we're going to turn into a block quote and create styles for this, and also use an existing style called quote. So we're going to begin by selecting the entire, the first paragraph. So to select a paragraph, we'll triple click, 1, 2, 3, or just double click, sorry. So double click to select the paragraph, and then we're going to go to the ruler. If you don't have your ruler visible, just go to the View tab and make sure the ruler is checked. Back to the Home tab for me. And so we've selected the text, and now I'm going to go to the ruler and the block on the left side, the left indent, the little square, and none of the arrows, but the little square, we'll click and drag that in about 1/2 inch. So it's blocking on the left indent. And we'll find the right indent right next to the number 6 on the ruler. We'll click on that triangle and drag it in about 1/2 inch, or maybe even further, just to get a better look on your block. See what looks good for you. And now we're going to go up into the paragraph alignment. And so we're going to go to use the justify alignment. So everything is justified. If it's left, it looks a little different. If we justify it, it squares it off. So now I'm going to open up the style box like we used earlier. And in there, I've added a style called quote. At least it doesn't look like. Maybe I'll have to add that there in this file. So let's go get that. I'm going to go to where we went before, manage the styles under recommend. And then I'm going to scroll down a little bit until I see the cues for quote. So I'll find a quote. I'm going to unhide that or just show that. So that'll become available in the style box and our style gallery. So now you can see it over here in the style gallery. So I'm going to click on it to use that. So that's the style that's already developed. Now I've already done some work on here, so I'm just going to easily go back and instead of center align this, I'm using the quote style as a base now for adding my new style information. So I'm going to block and justify the text. I'm going to give it a little bit larger font because now it changes to Garamond body. So I'm going to make that a little bit larger, maybe 12, maybe 11. I'll go to 11. And so I've blocked it on the ruler, I've justified it, and I made some modifications, and it looks good. We're ready to go. So I might want to, after, not have to use all this work again, so I'm going to go ahead and save the style. I'm going to click the More menu and go to Create a Style, the one that's already selected, and I'm going to call this My Quote. My Quote. And when I click OK, there's another style in this gallery for this file called Statement of Work Modified. So we have the My Quote. And just to check it to make sure it's working, I can select everything and change it all back to normal. Or I can go to My Quote. So pause the video, take a few moments and practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's move on to lesson 5, creating a pleading caption. I'm going to have us open 3 files that'll give us some various examples of pleading captions. So I'm going to have us open up the file called Complaint for Divorce. And we're going to open up another file called My Pleadings. And the third file we're going to open up is called Microsoft Legal Paper. This was taken from one of the Microsoft templates we'll see in later lessons. So I'm going to navigate to the Complaint for Divorce to start there. Now the thing I want to do is turn the Show Hide menu on. Looks like the paragraph mark in the Home tab of the paragraph group. So you'll be able to see when the hard return was hit, the paragraph mark, or the arrows will show the tabs. So these are non-printing characters. So basically they're just showing you how things were formatted on the document, lightly. So Let's take navigate through and make sure that this is turned on with all the documents. So I'll take us to my pleadings and have us turn on the show hide menu there. While we're in there, we may want to scroll down or navigate to the second page because that's where we'll be working. And let's get to the other document, the Microsoft legal paper, and turn the show hide menu on there. So we've got the show hide menu turned on in all three documents, and let's navigate back to the complaint for divorce document. This is the most basic. Now, when this template was made, you can actually see the arrows for the tabs and all this visually, and it's going to be more arrows than the others. In this case, the tabs are set up in a normal template to just hit your tab key, and it moves along the ruler at each half-inch mark. So at each half-inch increment up there, this is up here, you see a tab at every half-inch mark. And that's kind of where all those tabs are hitting, a half-inch, at the inch, an inch and a half. And when you see that, each one of these arrows basically is when you hit the tab, it's going to go to the next half-inch mark, each place it goes to. So you can set tabs to not have that many tabs in there, so you can have it a little cleaner. And then you can move things around with the set tabs. So we'll go through those areas. We'll come back and recreate this. This is where we're headed. So now we're going to go to some others to see how some other formattings we're doing. Let's open up the My Pleadings. So in the My Pleadings, in this case, you don't necessarily see it yet, but there's two table cells in there, basically, and that's where the guardianship and the case numbers are in tables. So if I click in there with my mouse, anywhere in there, you can see on the tabs at the top, you'll see contextual tabs up there, like table design and table layout. Say table design and layout. Those are contextual tabs, and you don't see them if you click away from the table. So that's a table that's been created in the document. So I'm going to hit escape to get out. And so I'll just click away from it. You'll see those contextual tabs have gone away. If I click back in the table, the contextual tabs come back. And what that means is that those tools are available for you as long as you're in the item that they're used for. So I'm in table design. I'll select that so you can see table tools, layouts for tables if you want to make the heights or width different, and all kinds of different things you can do in there. Insert more rows. But in this case, you generally just want to use two cells. So it makes it easier. So now when you're in here in this particular table, if you click in it, you can look at your ruler and see all the way up to a little bit past the 3rd inch. You'll see things are kind of centered around there a little bit towards the right. So if you click in the other cell where case number is, you can see basically what looks like a column, but it's just the cell. And so you can go in, you'll see that there really are no tabs or anything used on this particular one. If you click in the part with the line where the paragraph is, it's just where they stopped typing the line, and that's when they hit the return. So it's easier sometimes to work in tables, and we'll do that, and then we'll save the whole caption and everything together. We're going to save it as one unit in AutoText. Okay, so make it easier. Once we do all the work, we want to put it somewhere. So let's take a look at the Microsoft template that we put in here. We'll see where to find those later, but in this case, you can see again, this one's in a table also. If I click in the plaintiff name cell, you can see the divided table from the ruler. So it's two cells. And it has the table design contextual tabs and the layout tabs at the top. If I was to click in the other cell, you can actually see in this case, you'll see some differences. I'm going to click in the first cell in front of the plaintiff. So if I click it in front of the plaintiff, you could see on the ruler where the first line indent has been chosen and selecting. So if you want to move this around, you can use the first line indent to set it up to put them at the same place. If I click in front of the defendant, that's how for that line, they use the first line indent to move that, to indent that, to place it in the cell differently. You could do the same thing where the pleading title is. If I click there and get in front of the P. And so if you needed to move those could easily be moved. Also if you wanted to use the first line, you could do that. So it's just ways to easily move things around in the caption. So much more efficient than the other one that's just a lot of tabs. And so we'll go ahead and get back to that complaint for divorce, and we're going to fix that. So I'm navigating back to the complaint for divorce document, making sure we still have the show hide button on. If you don't, go ahead and click on it again to bring it back. And the idea is I have another file, so I'm going to open that one also, and I'm going to do a side-by-side here. So basically I can see, and you can see also while I'm doing it, and we can delete and change. And so this file on my right was the original look, and we're going to change that a little bit. So let's just see how this was developed. We're going to create it. I'm going to select in the complaint for divorce document the caption. Now I'm going to delete. Oh no, where'd it go? Okay, so here we are. And I'm just going to go ahead and start typing so you can see, but what I want to do first is I want to get a table. I want those two cells. So I'm going to go to the Insert tab and look for Table and just grab two cells in here, 2x1 table. 2 columns, 1 row. Select it, and there we have it. So now I looked a little bit before, so I'm kind of cheating, but I'm going to go ahead and resize this table. So it's going to go down closer to about the line 15. Somewhere around here. So fairly close to that same size. We can adjust it all later. So what I want to do is I want to go to the first cell or the name. And so what you'll see on the sample to the right, you'll see the tabs that go all the way to the end, and then there's a paragraph mark. So we're going to work with some keystrokes to be able to make the tabs in the cells go to the end of the cell. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in name, and then a comma. And so now what I want to do is talk about the tabs a little bit. So in my half document Word, the upper left corner of my screen, you're going to see what's called it's a little tab marker. It looks like an L. That means it's a left aligned tab. It's a left aligned tab. So a left aligned tab, it means that it's the alignment. Tabs work in a way of alignment and position. So it's a left aligned tab. So if you use a left aligned tab, it's gonna type from the left and the right from its position. If you change the tab stop to a center aligned tab, when you start typing, it's going to type from the center and flex out. And then if you change it to a right aligned tab, it's going to be right aligned, so it types from the right to the left as the text is coming out. So generally that's something to know about. And commonly in this case, we're probably going to be using mostly the left aligned tab. So in here, what I want to do is in here, I want to use the left aligned. I'm in the first cell, so I'm going to go up into the ruler just before the 3 and make my mouse pointer just a little bit by the dot. I'm going to click on that dot, and now you'll see the left aligned tab appear. So when that happens, normally what happens when you're in a ruler of a brand new document, there are no tab stops. So that's why it stops at every ½ inch mark on the ruler. Like you tab to the ½ inch, tab to the 1 inch, tab to the 1.5, tab to the 2 inch. So what will happen is when you make a tab like this happens, it clears out all the other tabs before it. So watch what happens now. And here's a keyboard shortcut. I'm going to tab all the way to that tab stop in the first cell. But in order to make that happen, I need to do it with a different keyboard shortcut. Usually I would tab. If it was in a document, it would just go to the next tab stop. But when you're in a cell, you need to use the keyboard shortcut Control Tab. So I'm going to use Control Tab. So now you can see that it stops at that tab stop that I set in the first cell. Now what's going to happen is I'm going to use Shift and right parentheses, and that gets the parentheses in there. So I'll again hit Enter, Control Tab, and right parentheses. And I'll hit Enter. On the third one, you notice on the sample to the right, it shows plaintiff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up another tab stop at the basically say 1.5 inch mark on the ruler. So I'll set this one up, left align tab, then I'll control tab to stop at that place, then I'll type in plaintiff and a comma, and then I'll control tab again, because you notice that tab stop is up in the ruler. I'll control tab, and then parentheses. So I need to go back up and put a parentheses on my second line there. We're going to look at the spacing on this too, because it looks like the spacing has changed. So after the plaintiff, and I'll choose enter. So I'll make some modifications on the spacing here. So now we control tab. This one, it stopped because what happens when you set the tab stops, this one stopped at the 1.5 inch mark because we just did that. So when I hit enter, those 2 tab stops followed on to the next line. So let me give you an example. I'm going to click where we type name, that row. So you see 1 tab stop. I'm going to click in the next row. You're only going to see 1 tab stop to the right. If I click in the 3rd row, you're going to see 2 tab stops on the ruler. Up here, and there, and the other one here. And so as I click, if I click on the bottom one, I really don't want the one in this line underneath plaintiff. So I'm going to come up to the ruler, and I'm going to select the L, left align tab, and drag it down onto the paper and remove it. So now I'm at the end of my document on my 3rd line. I'll make my parentheses, and then I'll begin back down. So you can take tab stop off by clicking and dragging them down to the page and replacing them if you need to. And so there we go. So the next thing I'm going to do here is called versus, lowercase vs. And one thing Word does is automate a lot of things. And so you notice that it capitalized my V before the S because it thought it was starting a sentence. So I'm going to backspace over all that and type it again just to clear all that capitalization. So the first time it uses the rule, the second time it won't. So I'm going to VS period and spacebar. So you see it's no longer a capital. So that's a great way to fix that problem. So we've got a tab set already. So I'll go ahead and choose, I'll hit tab or control tab, sorry. And then right parentheses, enter. So I'm going to make this table a little bigger for now while I'm working, because in the process, it's got bigger spacing than I want. We'll work on changing that spacing. So now I'm going to have control tab, parentheses, to get close to the look. Let me just go ahead and fix these so it's not a problem. So I'll select all the way down to the spacing here. And look under paragraph spacing and see what the issue is here. So we have multiple line spacing. If we set this back more towards single, well, I guess that's what they were doing before. And that's that, okay. Okay, there's a fix my patch. All right, so here we go. So took care of the spacing problem. So now if you sample, now we're going to start. There's a line underneath that, and then there's the name. So we'll put in the next name. And at which time we do the same thing we did at the top. So we control tab, right parentheses, and there we're going. Now the spacing is no longer a problem. Whatever I did, it was fixed. And now we're moving on. So the idea, you can see the idea is to set your tabs in here, and the tabs are working for every line. So now control tab, parentheses. And then we have another like plaintiff independent type thing. So let me look here where that was. That was at the 1.5 inch mark. So we'll do the same thing on that line down here for the defendant. So we'll put another tab at the 1.5 inch mark. Control tab, and we'll type defendant. Control tab, parentheses, and there we go. And the last one, control tab. We're going to remove the 1.5 inch tab because we don't need it on that line. And we're going to put the parentheses now. We're ready to go. So now it looks similar to the sample on the right. So now all we need to do is go into the next cell and set up our case numbers. And so if I can go down to maybe say the third line. Somewhere down there. And we'll work it straightening those out. So now I want to set up, I'm going to do a tab. So that basically is going to put the tab at, say, should be around the 3.5 inch mark. So we'll set up a tab there. And control tab. Case number. And control tab, because we already set it up. Okay, and there we go. And so I can just take the show hide button off. And there we have it. We've created our pleadings. Similar to theirs, but not so many when you turn the show hide button on. Not so many tabs. And the advantage here basically would be this, that if I click where it say the plaintiff is, and I want to move this a little bit, maybe I want to move it over, I can just move the tab. I could do the same thing under the defendant, and I can move this over, kind of match it. The line helps me match it up. I could do that same thing. So it looks like I messed it up, so I'll click back in here and add another one. And I'll move this over to line it up. And there we go. There we have it, creating a pleading. So, take some time, stop the video, practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's move on with lesson 6 for bullets and numbering. So we're going to open up a file, and that file is going to be my annual Hildebrand. So we're going to navigate over to page 2, allowing us to select a bulleted list. So when working in bullets, you'll select the bulleted list. In most cases, something that's already, if you have text already there, or you can just choose bullets when you're creating it. So I'm selecting the bulleted list, and you can change a bullet pretty easy in here, like say dog paws or something like that. So now we've changed the bullets. If you just hover, you can get a little look at it before you change them. And there's another place if you want to get more choices for bullets list. We'll go down to define a new bullet. And in here, we'll click on symbol, which takes us to where we can find different symbols. Commonly, it will go to wingdings. And if you scroll around in wingdings, you look enough, I'm going to find one in here, the 4-point star. So use the 4-point star from here. And then click OK. So I've changed my bullets. Once I click OK, you get a preview of them. And now I'll click OK, and then you'll see them on the document. So multiple ways to change bullets, and lots of different bullets to choose from. The thing about bullets is you want to be able to space the text in the bullets depending on which bullets you add. Sometimes they're larger bullets and you want a little bit more space between the text and the bullet. So to do that, I want to have you look at the ruler up on the upper left corner of my screen. So we're looking at the ruler in here under these first line indent, which is the upside down triangle, and that one that looks like a house or upside down house, and the other one that looks like a little bit of a house. That's the first line indent, and then that's all the rest of the lines of the paragraph normally in a paragraph. But now with bullets, this is where you'll move text away. So the first line indent is the bullet, and the hanging indent is basically the text. Okay, so go ahead and work that. So if I click on the hanging indent and drag it out to say 1.5 inch or 1 3/4 inch mark on the ruler, that moved the text away from the bullet. If I click on the first line indent and move it towards the 1/2 inch mark, that moves it closer to that. So I can just use these two to work it out to where I want to place these things. Easy way to formally move your text and bullets from each other. So I'll select them again and just move things back a little bit. More practice. And there we go. It looks good. So you also have indent levels with your bullets. And so there's different list levels. So when you select them, actually just click in front. I'm going to click in front of 1 and show you that if I hit my tab key, it indents with a different style bullet. Each time I hit it, there will be a different style bullet. And I'm hitting tab to indent. There's a keyboard shortcut called Shift Tab to outdent. Shift Tab outdents. So tab indents, and Shift Tab will outdent. And you notice when I bring this back out, the bullets are not aligned, and that generally is because of what's on the ruler. So I'm going to go ahead and line these up again. And you can see you can fix it fairly easy up in the ruler when that type of thing happens. And there we go. So let's do it this way. Now, when I go back to bullets, just to show you when we go to change the list level, you see the styles in there that each level, we hit the tab key on to indent, change to that symbol. Let's take a look at numbers. Go ahead and select the bulleted list and turn them into numbers. There'll be consecutive numbers once I click on it. So number 1 through 6. Same thing if you want to move the text away from the numbers or whatever, get them closer to align things better. Now in numbers, maybe I want to change the number to an ABC instead of a 1, 2, 3. Pretty easy. Whatever is pre-designated for me here. But you can also do a lot of modifications in this. So we have, you can change different list levels that we have in here like we did with bullets. And you can also have this thing like set a numbering value. So set a numbering value is important to come up. And here's a reason why you would want to use that. I'm going to go ahead and go down to after long-term growth, and I'll hit enter. And I'm going to change that numbered list just to make it clearer. Makes it easier when you're dealing with numbers, but back to numbers. So for number 7, maybe I don't want to continue the number 7 right there. So I'm going to backspace and take the numbering away on this particular line. So what I'm going to do is just say something down there that, because these are achievements for our stakeholders, what I want to do is, tell them how great it was so they feel part of the team. So I'll say, well done. And then I'm going to hit enter to move down. So now I want to start the numbering again, just to make sure everything's okay. Now I want to start the numbering again, and I want it to start with a 7. So when I click on the numbers, it starts off with a 7, because it's just following the numbering. Now there's a little tip down there that comes up, AutoCorrect, and it comes up, and you could say restart the numbering. So if I said restart the numbering, it goes back to the number 1, and I can go back to the tip and continue numbering. So I have choices just easily from the little tip to take care of it down there. A formal place to do that is in the drop down next to the numbers up in the paragraph grouping. And at the bottom of that list, you can see where it says set numbering value. So this is a place you can just start with whatever number value you choose right in there to set the number value. Or you can just continue from a previous list. This would be the formal way if that little tip didn't come up. Okay, so I'll backspace to clear the numbers. And so that's bullets and numbering. Now we're going to get to, in the next lesson, we'll be talking about multi-level numbered lists. So pause the video, take some time out to practice what you've learned, and come back to join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's get going with Lesson 7, Outline Numbering with List Styles. We worked with simple outlines or simple bullets and lists. Now let's take a look at the outline numbering. We're going to start in the document right where I am around page 2. So we're going to look at clicking in front of the T from To Our Stakeholders. We're going to have a begin point, and then we're going to select most of the rest of the document. So we begin our begin point in front of the T, and we're going to scroll down with our mouse, not to click anywhere in the text, scrolling down with the mouse to the very bottom, at the bottom of the actual text, and then hold down your Shift key and click after Opportunity, and it'll select everything in between. So now we're going back to the top with everything selected by the scroll bar. And so since the selected area now is going to become our multi-level list, so let's go to the paragraph group, find the drop-down menu, and look for a sample multi-level. Let's take the first one next to the None choice. We're going to go to the right of that, select the multi-level list. So now we have lots of numbers. Because everything was left aligned, you don't really see the indentation. So what's going to make the list look even nicer is when you start indenting, because you get a little image of that when you're hovering over the list. So, but you notice that nothing is indented. So I'm going to click in front of Achievements, hit my Tab key. Then we can start seeing the breakdown. I'll click in front of this fiscal year paragraph. I hit my tab a couple of times. So now we're breaking it down with the indents as necessary. So that was a previously designed list, and it makes it easier for us to go in here and set this up. Cool. It's about the indents. So I'm going to undo those choices. And go back to the beginning. So we'll select that again. Review this, scroll towards the bottom. And click on the last point I want. And so now we're ready to go again. So where we went was the multi-level list icon in the paragraph group. And in here, we chose one of the levels. So you can also do it, let's say you chose 1 by 1 by 1, 1.1.1. So each time you would use this, as you can see, it's all about the indents. And you work your way down through the document. So you notice that Tab indents and Shift Tab outdents. So Tab indents and Shift Tab will outdent. Take it backwards. So those are keyboard shortcuts to work in this as well. So then it's just a matter of working your way down the document and complete it. So this is a document that's already had the text in it, so that makes it simple to work with. You can also do this with a blank document. So I'm going to Control N for a new document, or since it's not working in the video here, I'll go to New Blank Document. So now if I choose a multi-level list, say I'm going to put something in like my annual report. And now I have a title. Now I'm going to go in here and I'm going to add the multi-level list. And I just choose that. So as I'm creating my paper, now it's just a matter of typing in To Our Stakeholders, like we saw before. Not quite the same format. Review of your results, and then I can tab Review of your results. And of course I might use all financial overview. But what I didn't do was while I was typing the point here. So I'm going back after results. Enter, tab, financial overview. So it stays at the same level as you're typing. If you shift tab, it'll be at that level. Each time I hit enter, it stays at the same level. So here we go, financial overview, whatever stuff comes up. Shift tab, go back, stays at the same level. Stays at enter level. Same type of thing. So on a new document, you can have it preconditioned, and all you need to do is type and hit your tab key to create things. You can also have them set up with styles, and it would make it much easier. So I'll close this. Not need to save. So this is all about the outline numbering with list styles. And the interesting thing is you can also create your own custom style. Now these were built-in styles that we looked at with the drop-down menu. There's a list library of stuff that's created in here. And we'll create another group in here with this. And it's going to be basically, we're going to define a new list style. So if you choose define a new multi-level list, you basically see the different levels and you can define it from here. But if you want to make a style and have that all that hard work you just saw, if you want to make a style, you can do that in a style and it'll save it in here for you in this document. Just so you know that the style is saved in the document, and we're going to talk about that, how that differs from the styles we learned about early up here with heading 1, heading 2. So let's go back to the multi-level list and say we can, it doesn't matter what I'm looking at now on my list, I can say define a new list style. So here's the style we're looking at. So the name of the style is going to be called the Rick R. M multi-level list, RM list, Rick M list, whatever you want to call it. So we have the first level we're starting with, and now I want to choose what I want in that first level. So basically I'm going to scroll up or down in here to get things. So I'm going to start with something different. I'm going to start with just creating something custom. I'm going to start with the A. That's at that's starting at 1, and then that's the first level here. Okay. So the formatting is, that's the first level in this. So now I'm going to go into choose the next level. So I'm going to go to the second level, keep it simple. Now the A is here. So the second level, what I want that to be is I want that to be a lowercase a. So I just kind of make it simple. Lowercase a. And so because it was based on the 1.1.1, you're seeing the dots, A.A dot, capital A.1. So we're changing and making this our own custom little list here. It kind of makes it kind of neat. So now we got the third level coming up. So we'll go to apply the next formatting to the third level. And on the third level, basically we're going to go, we had A in the lowercase a, so we got the 1. We'll add the lowercase 1s. Let's change it to this. The big one, there we go. The big one on the third level. We'll go to the fourth level. Change the fourth level to simple little I. Okay, so I'm just kind of faking a level here. And so now we've got a little bit of a custom list. And then we can just say, okay. So it's called Rick's M list. We did about 4 levels in here. So we'll go ahead and click OK. And if we were to select the elements of our document that we want to be using that list with, I'm just going to do a little test up here. So it's not up here. You're not going to see it up here. You don't see RM list in here anywhere, like even though it's called this style. But it is in another place. It's right here. So when you go back down to the multi-level list and go down to see list styles, was just created another group I was talking about. So this is what we did, the capital A and then the capital A with a lower a. And so we'll basically change this to this list style because it's down there and it's available for us. Definitely don't use this style in your legal documents, but it's just to show you that it's a custom and that the indents and the setup is the style. So one thing we learned earlier when we talked about styles, here's a little tip. I'm going to go to the styles box. Remember, it's this little dialog box launcher over here, and at the lower right corner of my screen, I'm going to click the third icon to the right. And back in here, we have manage styles. Remember down in here, they had import, export, and we talked about copying these styles and elements over here. This is where this is hanging out. So you don't see the style up here in the styles group, and you don't see it in the styles box, but you do see it down in here. Rick M list down in here in this particular, so it's in the file and it is a style, but it's just contained somewhere else. So here it is. If I wanted to copy this over, if I wanted to close the normal template and open up another file and copy this over, I can copy it this way. So it'll be available to me in other documents. So that's our basic lesson in the outline numbering with list styles. So pause the video, take some time out, practice what you've learned, and come back to join us for the next lesson. Welcome back. Let's get started with lesson 8. Control formatting when copying and pasting text. Let's open the file called Complaint for Divorce. We're going to open the file called Complaint for Divorce. I'm also going to bring up a brand new document, so we have two things to work with. There we go. I'll split the screens. So I'm going to start with selecting some text from the text block in the Complaint for Divorce file. So I'm going to copy this text, selected text, and then go over and paste it into the new document just with a simple Control V. So it uses the default, which is an HTML format from the Complaint for Divorce document to the blank document. So that's basically the default. But now if you see the little notation that came up on the blank document, we'll take a look at that. These are the paste options. And so when I hover over those paste options, you'll see the destination theme, change the keep source formatting, and that's a merge formatting. So the destination theme was basically an HTML, and then you see the keep the source formatting, whatever was formatted in the source document appears in the new document. And then there's a merge formatting. The merge formatting, what it does is it pastes just the text you've copied, but changes the formatting to match the surrounding text in what you're pasting. So let me give you a little bit better example of that. In this case, if I choose this, it can work okay, but let me explain this simply by just doing something simple here. So I'm going to type in hello world, and I'm going to type hello world again. Might make sense to put a period after it. Okay, so I'm going to change this to a red font and say bold or whatever the case. And so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it next to the word, the hello world above, and look at the paste options as the source formatting. The source was red. If I go over to merge formatting, notice it picked up the formatting that was in the other document. It didn't take away the bold, but it changed a little of the formatting. So I'm going to change it to picture now, just so you can see what picture does. If I change it to picture, I'll click on Hello World, and that's actually a picture and not text now. So I'm going to delete that and just do a little sample of all this. I wanted to give you a little preview of the merge and a better sample. So here we go. So I'm over the text block again, copy, and pasting over into the new document and taking a look at all my options. I can paste the destination theme. I can paste the source formatting. I can paste the merge formatting, and I can also choose a picture. Let me try the picture one again. And then we'll go back to the last one, which is just keep text only. So take a few moments, pause your video, practice what you learned, and come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back to Lesson 9, Inserting Automatic Text. So we're going to start out with a blank page just to get a navigation and look where auto text is located. And so let's start with a blank document. Control N to create a brand new one, or if I click the document and Control N, we have a brand new one. Now, on the Insert tab on the far right side of the ribbon is where you're going to find Quick Parts. Quick Parts is in the Insert tab, the text group, and it's in the Quick Parts command. So inside there, you're going to click the little drop-down arrow to find Auto Text. Currently, I have just initials in there. So I'm going to go ahead and create an auto text entry. So I'm just going to type my name. And then select it. And then once I select the text, it's just one line for now, and then I'll go to Quick Parts, Auto Text. And I'm going to save the selection to the Auto Text gallery. Now there's a couple of galleries here, so let me give you an idea. There's save the selection to the Quick Part gallery, which is where we started out. And now we have to save it to the Auto Text gallery, which is the visual here in Auto Text. So this is actually in the Auto Text gallery here is where we're saving our auto text. There really isn't any difference between the two other than they're just different galleries. Okay, so go right to Quick Parts, Auto Text, save the selection to the Auto Text gallery. And it'll come up creating a new building block, which is where all the building blocks are stored. I'll show you coming up, and then we'll click OK. And now I'm going to delete Richard Kamara. I'm just going to type now. I'm going to type Richard. And I don't even have to get all the way through, halfway through my name, and it comes up. So I'll just hit Enter, and then I don't have to complete typing. So it's a big time saver. So here's another option. I'm going to type in my name. And then I'm going to put in my title, like a signature block at the bottom. So my name, my title, my company, maybe an email. Okay, so I'm going to format just a little bit here. Give it a different look. It's pretty much how I want it to turn out. And I'm going to give this a little paragraph spacing because they're a little bit too far from me. So I'll change this down to a single and take out the after. And there we go. So I'm ready to go. I'm going to go to the Insert tab, over to Quick Parts, Auto Text, and save the selection to the Auto Text gallery. So we do see that I have the single line Richard in here. And that's going to be overtaken by the Richard that has the multiple lines. And that's because you can only have one of them in there with exactly the same name, so it'll work. So I'm going to save that selection. I'll click OK. And it'll tell me, it'll ask me, I say, do you want to redefine the building block entry? Because I know it's already in there. I'm going to say yes. And there we go. So I can delete all of those. Now let's navigate over to another document we're familiar with. Let's go to File and Open and get the Complaint for Divorce document open. Complaint for Divorce. This is a lesson where we're going to save a lot of stuff into the, not auto text, but Quick Parts. And so a lot of these types of things like your captions or your blocks, like in the upper left corner information block, I'm going to go ahead and start up there. So we've got a little formatting. So I'm going to select the information block above. And then I'm going to go to Quick Parts. Save this selection to the Quick Part gallery. Just a different gallery to place it in. Keep the same name. I'll click OK. And then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do the District Court, Clark County, Nevada. Here we go. And so now I'm getting the caption with the title. And I'll go over to Quick Parts. Save the selection to the Quick Part gallery. And click OK with the name. And there we go. So if I go back to Quick Parts, now you'll see the gallery is filling up a little with title blocks and complaints, captions. And so that's a big time saver for those of you who don't want to have to keep formatting these things all the time. Well, let's pause the video, take some time to practice what you've learned about auto text and the Quick Parts gallery, and then come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's get started with lesson 10, controlling autocorrect options. So I'm going to have it start once again with a blank document. And the way that AutoCorrect is set up with lots of different places, let me just show you the basic location of it. We're going to the File tab, all the way down to Options. And in Options, we're going to be looking for Proofing. And there will be a button in there for AutoCorrect options. And with the AutoCorrect options, you'll see that it corrects two initial capitals or capitalizes the first letter of sentences. So when we're really typing too fast, sometimes it just comes up by mistake, and these are just normal fixes that they've placed in here for us. And so I'll go ahead and close this, but just focus that we have correcting two initial caps, capital letters, first names, and then we'll also focus on the names of days. Okay, so we'll take a look at this in their samples. So as I'm targeting two initial caps, capital T, capital H, and E, when I hit the space bar, you can see that it takes away the second cap. That's just common things we've noticed in the program. If I go down to another line, I can do different things, like if I start a sentence with THE and hit the space bar, it capitalizes the T. So the double caps in the first one, this one's just a single capitalizing something that wasn't. And then you could say days, like if I type Friday and space bar, you notice that it capitalizes that. So when I'm working in a sentence, I wanted to say I'll just make the mistakes along the way. The plaintiff, let me start that another way. I meant to do it this way. The, not capitalized, space, plaintiff, capital PL. So everything's getting corrected on Tuesday, spacebar. So you see these autocorrect options in there. Now, sometimes when you don't want autocorrect to work, you can just backspace or use the undo button. So in this case, I wanted T, capital H, or maybe I want something just lowercase for whatever reason. I'm going to THE, hit the space bar. Now I'm going to backspace over that. So it already made the rule. It followed the rule, but now the next time I do it, THE and space bar, it won't capitalize that. So sometimes it's just an undo or backspace, and then do it again, and it'll keep the lowercase instead of capitalize it. Different ways to work with AutoCorrect. Now when we go to the AutoCorrect place, let's go to File, back down to Options, and into Proofing, and then to AutoCorrect options. In the AutoCorrect options, you'll also see exceptions. So in here, the case we have an exception in there for IDs or right. I just put that in there. Currently, I'm going to delete that. But the IDs commonly in there sometimes. So it says don't correct IDs. So in other words, don't take the D and make it lowercase. So this was an exception that is plugged into the program. Cool. There we are. You also saw a button in there, and that's why the right was in there. It says automatically add words to the list. So you can choose to leave that on or not. I've never found a reason to turn those features off under AutoCorrect because they work great for me. I'm not the greatest typist, but when I do type, I do make mistakes, and I love to have those mistakes corrected most of the time. So there's no reason for me to really uncheck any of those. So that's the basic lesson with controlling your auto text. Let's go ahead and pause your video, take some time to practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's get started with lesson 11, inserting legal symbols. I'm going to have us open up a file, and it's going to be called Legal Symbol Examples. Some legal symbol examples. Now, some of the symbols you'll see here are common legal symbols, like the sections and paragraphs, and also copyright, trademarks, registered trademarks, and those. And so we're going to figure out easy ways to get them into the documents. So I'm going to take us over to the Insert tab. And over at the far right side of the ribbon, we're going to see the Symbols command. So in there, we're going to go ahead and click the drop-down arrow and look for we'll see previously inserted symbols on a list, and then you can go down to More Symbols, and this is where we'll be hanging out. So with More Symbols, you can change the fonts if you want to match specific fonts to your documents. You have different Latin supplements in here that you can use, and recently used symbols, you'll see one that I have here. I have an example of the A down there, which they call it an acute. I had a boss, his last name was Pagan, and he always wanted the second A to have that acute symbol when we were writing it on paper. So I imagine when we ever got to computers, that would have been the same, and I would have had to use this option. So I'm going to start by using this as an option to create your own new shortcut. The other shortcuts you'll see up there, Alt plus 0167 for the section, or Alt plus 20 for the paragraph. We'll go through and cover those, but this is just to make a brand new one. In this particular case, there isn't a keyboard shortcut in there, so we'll take a look. So I have it selected. I'm going to go to keyboard, shortcut keys, and in the shortcut keys, you'll see that if it said current keys, there would be down there. So it tells me that there's no keyboard shortcut here. So I'm going to create one. I'm going to call it Alt Shift A. Alt Shift A. So I'm alternating the A for whatever reason I want to use that. So I'm Alt Shift A, and then I'm going to assign it. And so that will be the shortcut for my normal text acute in the name Pagan. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I'll close this. And now let's take a look at this. So I'm going to type Mike's name in. I'll type P-A-G, and I want to do the acute now. So Alt-Shift-A, and there it is, and then my N. So I'm ready to go. So when there's those simple little ones you want to bring in, that's a great example. So I'll backspace, or I'll hit Enter just to leave that in there. Okay, I might add that last name to my dictionary because he was my boss. Okay. All right. Now, if I'm looking at just above, if I want to insert the symbol, I can insert the symbol easily by going to Insert Symbols below. So when we go to the symbols, if I used it previously, like the section is in here, I can grab it from here. We also can get it from More Symbols. It's usually one of the first ones up if we scroll to the top. Okay. Depending on where we go. So I'll see mine are recently used. You can scroll and look for your symbols as you go in here. And if you just see the recently used, I could just go to that place. Here we are. And I'll insert it from there. I'm going to backspace over that and just use the keyboard shortcut. So I'm going to hold down my Alt key on the keyboard. And then I'm going to use the numbers. While I'm holding Alt, I'm using the numbers 0167. Let go of Alt, and there comes my section. I'll do that again with paragraph. I'll hold down the Alt key and look at the keyboard shortcut, Alt plus 20, and I'll type 20 from my keypad. Let go of Alt, and there comes the paragraph mark. So those keyboard shortcuts work simple, just knowing how to use them. And other things, there's simple ways. You see ones for copyright, and you find here Alt 0169 is copyright. Well, there's another one there for copyright. If we go to Symbols, look at More Symbols, and you look at the special characters, you'll see another copyright in here, Alt-Control-C. So you can get copyright from Alt-Control-C, or you can get it from Alt plus 0169, or you can just get it from what's called auto text. So I'm back in symbol, back down to more symbols. I should have left that dialog box open. And I'm going to go to where AutoCorrect next to the shortcut key button. Now in AutoCorrect, you'll notice in here, if you replace, it's just replace text as you type. So if you type a parentheses, lowercase c, right parentheses, it'll bring in the copyright symbol. Let me give you an example. If I type a left parentheses, lowercase tm, right parentheses, and there's the trademark symbol. A left parentheses, lowercase c, with a right parentheses, there's a copyright. There we are. So if you want to register trademark, you have left parentheses, lowercase r, right parentheses, and there it comes. Simple keyboard shortcuts for some legal symbols. So that's our basic lesson in legal symbols, inserting legal symbols and creating keyboard shortcuts for them and using them. So take some time out, pause the video, practice what you've learned, and then come back and visit us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's get started with lesson 12, inserting a legal footer. So we're going to open up a file called Complaint for Divorce. Getting familiar with this one? So an easy way to get to the header and footers is go to the Insert tab, and you'll look over inside the header and footer group. And in there you're going to see where you can just click the drop down arrow and get to the footer. So they give some samples in here like built-in footers for, there's a blank footer with a header on the left. There's 3 blank columns. There's Austin, Banded. There's all kinds of stuff that goes with the styles and your building blocks in there. And you can get down below, you can just get to where it says edit footer, and it'll take you right there into the footer. To get back to the document, you can just easily double click in the document and it'll go back into the document. So an easy way to get to the footer is to double click in the footer itself. There you go. And so now you're in the footer, and you're also, when you do that, you're in the header and footer contextual tab at the top of the screen. So this is contextual tabs that appear when you need them, when you need the tools to use in the header and footer. Okay, so in there, you'll see in the upper left corner of my screen, you'll see the header and footer group. And inside here, there's a couple of places to look into, like footer and page numbering. So I'm going to cover both of those because you'll see that page numbering is actually an easy way to get things quicker. So we go to footer, and I want to go in there and take a look at some. I'm going to use the blank 3 columns as a sample. And then it just has some fields in there. It says type here. So I'm going to type here. Double click it, and what I'm going to do is go back to the Insert tab. I was already there. Going over to the right side of the ribbon, and I want to go to Quick Parts, where we visited earlier, and we did some of those saved selections to the Quick Part gallery and auto text. Well, in here, you actually see Document Properties, and then we could do some things if they were placed in the Document Properties area. And I also can go down to Field. I'm going to go into the field, and I want to find the file name. So it's in an alpha character area, so I'm going to choose file name. And then I want that in title case, and I'll click OK. So the file name will be down there on every page of the footer. Now I'll go into type here, and I want to put the page numbers in the middle. So where I'm going to go here is I'm going to go back to Quick Parts and go down to Field. And in the field, I want to do the page numbering, so you can actually put the field. You'll find this is easier later on in a different way, but I'm going through all the methods. And so I look under the P's. You can click on one and then type a P and have it scroll you down there. So I'm going to put in the page number. So I'll click OK for page number. And in just a regular format, click OK. Then I'm going to hit the space bar and type of space. And I'll put the number of pages. So back to Quick Parts. Back to field, and I'll click in any one of the field names and type in N for num field. Take me down there. I'm going to look for num pages. And I'm going to keep that same format. Num pages. I'll click OK. So the number of pages, 1 of 2, 1 of 3, 1 of 4. So then I'm going to go to the last part, in the column. And over there, we want to put in, say, the attorney name. So I could just type that in as a sample. You notice it's right aligned. So when people use this template, they'll be able to, put the name in there, put the attorney's actual name, and the number of pages. Since that's what we're doing, maybe I'll just put in an attorney's name. All right, joke of the day. Okay, here we go. Now we've got a name in there. So I mentioned earlier that this may be the hard way because I think the biggest thing is because of where we did the number of pages. So let's clear all this. I'm going to clear that out of there after all your hard work. And I'm going to go back to the header and footer contextual tab. And I'm going to look on the left side of header and footer because I'm really looking for the page number area up here. Okay, so I want the page number because that's a real beneficial area. It gives you where do you want the numbering at the top, the bottom, page margins, or current position. So I just basically want the bottom of the page, and I want to have the page numbers in the middle. Now, the thing here is I did the number of pages there with the fields, and you don't have to go through. You notice it says page X here. So we've got page X. You got to look at these headers in there. So when you look at page X, you'll see it here. I'm going to look for page X of Y. So I'm going to go ahead and get that out of there. Back to page numbers, bottom of the page. And as I scroll down, you see it's coming up page X of Y. So here, you look closely, you see page X of Y. That gives you a hint and an idea that those footers are going to say page 1 of 1 and 1 of 1, 1 of 2, 1 of 3. So there we are. So I can choose one of those when I get down there. So maybe I want to use one of those and place that in the center of the page. So that's where I get started, so I don't have to go through all that other, and it also adds in the word page. So now I'm going to click to the left side of that, hit backspace. The reason this is easy, if you look at the ruler, there's a center alignment tab at the 3-inch mark on the ruler and right align tabs at the 6-inch mark on the ruler. So I have a blinking cursor in front of the page. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert information in front of the page numbering. So I'll hit the space bar and just backspace a little bit, and I'll hit the space bar, hit my arrow key to go back. So I'm going to insert some information there. I'll go back to the insert tab, back to quick parts. I want to go to the field, and here I can put in the file name. So I can put the file name in title case. I'll click OK. And then I'll tab. The page numbering will go to the center. Then I'll click after page 8. And then I'll tab again, and then I'll have a right aligned information coming right aligned on the bottom of my footer. So in that case, I could put in the attorney name. Here we go again. All right. So that's an easier way to put a footer in some cases. That way you don't have to deal with the page, space, of, and all the stuff we did before. And most of the time what's going to happen is you're going to, your footers, depending on your work, are going to vary. So you can put more information in there in different ways. So again, the header and footers, inserting a legal footer. So take some time, pause the video, practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's start lesson 13, using cross-references. I'm in the file called Hildebrand Properties, so feel free to open that one if you choose to follow. And what we're going to do is we're going to create basically a hyperlink in a lot of ways. It's very similar to hyperlinks. So the cross-reference, we're going to select words, and those words are talking about a specific subject, like maybe relocation, and then it's going to, when you click on it, it would take you to a relocation team chart. Or if you click on another word that you put in there, so if you want to have something like see more information on page 6, it takes you to that information about that sentence you just read, to a chart or a figure or a heading with more information about that subject. So to do this, we're going to start down on page 6. I'm sorry, I'm going to start with page 6 because that's where I'm used to. All right. Scrolling a little bit. So here's a little tip. So I'm using the scroll to scroll all the way down since we're really talking about easy navigation. I'm going to hit my F5 function key, and it says go to page. The F5 function key takes you to find and replace. There's also the go to tab. So F5 basically goes right to go to. All I have to do is type in a number 5 per page, or number 6 is where I was headed. So number 6, and I just hit enter. So that takes me right to that page. Your F5 function key takes you to go to, type the page number, and you'll get right there. So now under relocation, I'm looking about the 4th line down, and right where the word relocation is. So what I want to do is put a little text in there. So here we go. I'll put a little text in there. I'm going to have a left parentheses, and I'll say C page space or right parentheses, and then another space to clean that up. And I want to make sure right after the word page, I've got a space in there. I'll click after that. That's where the page number is going to show up. Okay, so now we're ready to do the cross-reference, and so in there we can select it or just leave it. So we'll go to cross-reference, and in cross-references we'll get this little dialog box. And in this case, I'm looking for a figure. I'm looking at somewhat. I could say figure, but I made a bookmark for this earlier. So I'll talk to you about bookmarks after. But I made this bookmark, and it's called New Relocation Team. And so the word was relocation up there. So it's talking about relocation. So we're going to see page. Where's more information about relocation team? So I'll use the bookmark relocation team and insert a reference to the page number. The reference to the page number, see page number, or see page text, or something. So there's a see page number. Insert. And there, the number 7 appears. And I'll close that. So now when I hover over that number 7, it gives me a little tip that says there's a control click. So I'll hold down control, and I'll click, and it's going to take me right to that page, if it does. And there we go, and it goes right down to the new relocation team. New relocation team. So that's our first cross-reference. Let's try another. So I'm going to go to page 3. So I'm going to hit my F5 function key, type in number 3, hit enter, and I'm right up there on page 3. So here I'm looking for right after service lines under strategy. The 3rd line down, I'm just going to click after there. And I hit the space, and I'll do another parentheses to get the idea there's more information lurking somewhere else. So in this case, I want to make sure that what I'm going for is to take this to a figure of where we're making money in the South. So I'm going to type in C page, just another one. I like the page ones, they're fairly simple. And then I'll make sure my mouse cursor's in there. Okay. Right there. And now I'm going to insert a cross-reference. So in this case, it's going to be a figure, because there are figures in the documents already. In this case, I want the one that's high sales are in the South. And I'm going to insert the reference to not the caption, the entire caption, but maybe just only the label and number. Only the label and number. I'll click insert. So this is where my mistake was. You can see what I did. So I'm going to go ahead and double click on the word page and delete that. See figure 2. See figure 2. So I should have just knew I was going to a figure. I should have said figure. But either way, it puts it in. And we've got it. So now I'll go ahead and close my go to over there. it's inserted, so I'll close it. We're good to go. So now when I hover over, you get the same tooltip. I'll hold Control, click. Try it again with just the 2. Control, click. And it's going to take me down to that figure. The south. High sales are in the south. So those are 2 examples of cross-reference. I hope you found those useful. Now what we're going to do now is take some time to pause the video, practice what you've learned, and come back and rejoin us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's start lesson 14, using sections and page breaks. I'm in the document called Hildebrand Draft, so feel free to open that one. This particular document has no formatting, has no sections, and it's basically just all section 1. At the lower left corner of my screen, you're going to see the section 1 I have down there, along with the 850 words in the pages. Section 1 is on my status bar, but it's not there when you first install Word. So if it's not on your Word program, just go ahead and right-click on the status bar, and you'll get a shortcut for customizing the status bar. So at the very top of the status bar, you'll see that my section is checked. If I click it again, it's turned off. So when you right-click on the status bar, I'm going to go up and turn the section display on. So that lets me know what section I'm in when I create more sections in the document. So right now, this entire document is only section 1. So let's play around a little bit. So I'm going to turn the Show Hide button on, and that'll give me some visuals of where sections can be. There, the entire document is section 1 right now, so let's play with that. I'm going to just click somewhere in any paragraph, just a blinking cursor, and I'm going to go to the Layout tab and choose Columns and change to 2 columns instead of 1. So now when I've done that, the entire document was changed to 2 columns because the entire document is all in section 1. I'll go ahead and change that back to 1 column. There we are. So what I'm going to do is add and talk about the sections. And so let's go to the second line, and I'm going to hit my Enter key a couple of times just to be down there. And then I'm going to go to the breaks under the page setup. So I'm on the Layout tab, Page Setup group, and we're going to the breaks command. And there you'll see page breaks, column breaks, and text wrapping. So these are all just regular breaks. The section breaks, when you use one of those, it creates other sections. So in the example we're going to use right now, I'm going to go down and make a section break. A section break. So now you look at your status bar, you'll see you're in section 2 because you're on that second page. So if I go back to the top and click up by Hildebrand Properties, it says I'm back in section 1. So let me click back down in section 2. And just so we can then scroll further down to that next page right in front of Relocation Team. So I'm going to click up on the paragraph mark in front of Relocation Team. What I'm going to have us do now is create a continuous break. This continuous break is going to allow us to do something in the document or on a page of the document. So if I wanted 3 columns on a page, if I wanted 2 columns on the same page as well, and the lower portion, I could do some, desktop publishing that way here. So my Relocation Team, I'm going to take that third page, and I'm going to create a continuous section break. I go to breaks, go to continuous, and it pops in a continuous section break at the bottom of the first page. So I'll just leave it there where it's inserted. I'll go to the bottom and click After Fall Selling Market at the end of the page, and then I'll insert another continuous section break. So I'm in section 3 right now. So when I click on there, that takes me down to the next page, which I'm down in section 4. So I've created other sections in here. So there was originally 1. And when you have the continuous section break, so if I click in between the continuous section breaks and I go to columns and change them to 2, it's only going to happen in that section. It's only going to happen there. I'm in section 3. Only section 3 is the column. Four isn't. If I click in 4, what looks like a column, it's just that text is only on the left side. But if I go back up into the continuous section breaks. There it is, section 3. So I'll go Control Home, and I'll turn the Show Hide button off. So essentially, maybe I want to go up, this is section 1 in the top, so maybe I want to go to do something with that, make it look a little nicer. So I might just go in here and go to Page Setup. That's pretty good. I'll just keep the margins. Just center align that. There we are. A little larger. Depends on the formatting, but just whatever I do to this, if I want to change the page layout on it somehow. I'll go to Page Setup. Maybe I want that to be, maybe I'm just going to try landscape in there. For whatever reason. I can be landscape on my first page, and then the other pages can be portrait, just as a visual. But I'll change that back. I'm going to change that back to portrait. So sections are your key to working in the desktop publishing when those steps are needed in your legal documents. Let's open another file. I'm going to open up File and bring up my Pleadings. I want to turn on the Show Hide button. You can see we're in section 1, and now there's a page break here. So they put a page break because they didn't want any more text below on that page, and then everything moved over to the second page. So when you click in the second page, you're going to see it's still section 1. And as you go through here, you'll see another page break, all still in there. You're all still section 1. When we get into just clicking in these areas. So once you get past there, then you'll see a section break as opposed to a page break. And we're seeing these because we turned on the Show Hide menu. So if you click after the next page section break, or somewhere where you can click, it's going to tell you you're in section 2. And that's just to set up these so you have different sections. Specific, maybe there's different kinds of headings you want to put in there, however you want to deal with those. All right. So those are the basics of sections and page breaks, and the difference between a page break and a section break. And so take some time, pause your video, practice what you've learned, and come back and join us to learn some more. Welcome back. Let's get started in Lesson 15, aligning text with pleading line numbers. So the way it generally works is, like this sample document I have, the paragraph is spaced inside this document with double spacing, and this was basically taken from a Microsoft template, and that's kind of what they do. So in general, you really don't want to have single or double line spacing in a pleading document, because what happens is other fonts get used, and you can see the fonts have different height styles, and that generally can, when you start changing fonts, you can disalign the numbers. And so what we're going to do is get an example of that. So let's go ahead and look and see what size the pleading numbers are. So I'm going to double click in the header and select the pleading number and click on the object, going back to the Home tab and using the Paragraph Dialog Box Launcher. This will allow me to find the line spacing. So you can see that it's double. And then then you want to make sure, if that's the line spacing you're going to use, you make sure the document is the same. So back in the document, I'm going to go back in and check that, and you notice that that's double. Okay, so now let's enter some text. I'm going to type in equals rand left parentheses 12, comma 12, right parentheses, just to put in some text, a little formula. Equals rand, left parentheses, 12, comma 12, right parentheses, and when we hit it, so you can see that everything is lined up with the numbers. Great, that double spacing. Oh, why not just use that? Well, here is why. Let's take it up to change the font. So I'm going to Control Home, go back to the top in there, and select all, Control A. And I'm going to change the font to Book Antigua. So by just changing that font, you can see that things are getting misaligned all the way down on all the text that I have in there. So there's a bit of a disalignment going down there. So this is why single and double don't generally work as far as the spacing. So let's go back in here and change that. So let's go back into the header so we can choose the number, pleading numbers, and then we select them all, go back to home and the paragraph spacing. We'll go back to change from double. We're going to change this to exactly 24 point. So when you're doing double spacing, you want to make it, instead of double space, you want to make the line spacing exactly 24 point, and it gives a visual of a double space. So it keeps exact spacing. That way, we've set up the lines this way, and now we go ahead and back into the document and Control A again, just to select everything and get it going. Change the paragraph. Change that also to exactly 24 point. And we'll click OK. And you can see that the lines add up. And see we're in Book Antigua where they didn't change it back to Times New Roman, or change it to Al Dahabi a little bit, or change it to Algerian. So just kind of visually looking at that, you can see that that's the basic setup of lining the text up to your lines. So the big key there in single and double line spacing should not be used. You should use exactly 12 points when it's single and exactly 24 points when it's double. So let's make a little room at the top. And I'll hit enter a few times to move these down a little bit. So maybe get some pleadings towards the top. And when I get up there, and one of the reasons you want single to be basically half the size of which you're, not single, but single spacing view to be half the size of what you did is an exact. So an exact 24 point, half of that would be 12 point. An exact 22 point, half of that would be 11 point. So the idea here is I'm going to go ahead and set up just some paragraphs in here. And we'll set that up to exactly 12 points. And okay. So see, there's a little bit of adjustment in there in the case of how things work. So those are single. So I'll put in here different spacing. So I got single spacing back there. Venue. So as you can see, the spacing is like halfway through because it's single space. And so as you start typing, next line, enter. So you can see as you get the single line at the top, it helps move the single view. It helps move the doubles as well. So if it was single and double and changing fonts, you can see that things would go wrong. So I'm going to undo these. Just get it back to where it was. Stop the video and take some time out, practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's get started with Lesson 16, Tracking Changes and Adding Comments. I'm in a document that's called Complaint for Divorce, and what we're going to do is we're going to turn on our tracking changes. So let's get to the Review tab and look under the center of the ribbon where you'll see the Tracking Changes command. You can turn it on here. Now, another place you have tracking changes is down on the status bar at the lower portion of my screen. You can see down there I have track changes. When you right click on the status bar, you have an area in here where you can turn track changes on or off. you're clicking on it. It's basically what it's doing is it's putting the track changes command on the status bar, so you can use the status bar if you're in this command a lot. It's right down there. So just another way to turn it on. You notice if I turn it on or off from the status bar, it changes the ribbon. If I turn it off from the ribbon, on and off from the ribbon, you'll see it changes on the status bar. So everything is synced in there. Not a bad way to go. So with that, let's go ahead and make some changes. Since tracking changes is turned on, I have all markup showing. I want to be able to see everything, and then I want to show the markup, either balloons or show them inline. I'm going to start with inline. That's how I initially learned this. And so inline, they're set up to go. I'm going to go down towards the bottom of page 1. So I'll double click the word 6 and change that to 8, just to make a change. And I'll double click the 6, change that to the number 8. And I'll go down again to page, say, 3. And I'll change the word believed to be thought. I'll go down maybe to page 4. Maybe that's a good change. Page 4 to change the child care. There we go. So we got a child care spell check. I'll right click on there and change the grammar to child care, and it'll show that change. So these are inline changes. I'm going to go ahead and show that markup in balloons to show the difference, to show the revisions in balloons. So you'll get a different view of what's been changed here. So you can see that it's a little cleaner look. You can see that the new word is thought, the old word is believed. So we're set to go back up to page 1. So you can see that I deleted 6 and I deleted 6. And 8 has been replaced. So now that the changes have been made, and we know a little bit about tracking and that, so let's take a look at the next part. Once the changes were made, you can go in to accept the changes, or you can accept and move to the next, or or reject. So you as the person might want to go through there and accept and reject these. I want to leave these in there because I want to use them for comparing. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop this portion of the lesson where we're getting into tracking the changes, and we're going to use the compare for lesson 17. So let's go ahead and stop the video, practice what you've learned, come back and join us for the next lesson. Welcome back. We'll get started with lesson 16B. I left out the comments in previous 16, so here we go. We're going to be working on comments in a document. So the comments are also under the Review tab. So if I was to say double click on the defendant and go ahead and choose New Comment, used to notify someone else. Okay, got it. And after the comment comes up, so I'll type what the comment is, make sure the defendant I told you I couldn't type. Name is spelled correctly. Okay. And so now I'll scroll down and find some other comments I can put in there. So let's see here. I'll double click resident. Insert another comment. A new comment. Check out the residency of the plaintiff. Cool. So we got some comments in there. Different views. So I'm showing the markup in balloons. So what if I decide to just, so the markup goes, let's change that back to, say, inline. Just so we can see. There's a different view on the comments. So you can see how that goes. So we go back to different. So we take out show the markup. If we say I want to show markup the balloons, show only comments and formatting in balloons. And it's just the comments. So if I want to go from one comment, next, previous, next. I only have a couple, so it's just going back and forth. And so that's just a quick and easy way to view your comments. Back to show markup, balloons, and take it to show revisions and balloons. So it's a great way when you go to the review tab to look under your comments group, and if you wanted to delete all the comments in the document, you could. You decide you want to take them all out now or just the ones that are shown. All good. So that's a little brief on comments. So take a little time out, practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some new learning. Welcome back. Let's get on with lesson 17. We're going to compare documents with legal document Blackline. So where we did all the tracking changes, now we're going to take a look at the original document versus the tracked changes document. So we're going to compare. So let's go to the review tab. And I'm currently in the original document, but let's go to where compare drop-down menu is. We're on the review tab and we're in the compare group. With the menu, we can go down to where it shows compare. We're not going to combine, we're just going to compare. And in here, when the compare dialog box opens, what you want to do is you want to look at the little folder. These lists are previously viewed documents, but just go to the folder and find your true documents. And I'm going to put in the original complaint for divorce, and then put in the modified one, complaint for divorce modified, which is the one that we kept on. We sent it off to somebody else. They made some changes on it, and now they gave it back to me. We're going to compare those two. We're going to see those changes. So now we'll go ahead and click OK. And it's going to say that one or both of the compared documents contain track changes. That's true. So they're basically saying it has track changes. They're going to consider them accepted. So we're going to choose yes, as if they were all accepted. And now you see the panels that come up. You have the revisions, that panel on the left side. And on the right side, you're viewing the original document on the top of the panel. The bottom is the revised document for the complaint for divorce modified. And in the middle, everything is compared. You're comparing to what was there before and how it's laid out. So watch when I scroll. You can see the documents on the right actually scroll with it to give you a much better visual in the original, on the modified one, and comparing them together. What was 6 is now 8. And so this is the views. You can actually turn things on or off. If you go back to compare and show source documents, you can change the view here. I'm going to get back to just show the revised document. I'll go back to compare again, go back to show source documents, maybe just show the original. I might want to go back and change it, just show both. That's where we're at. So these are little modifications you can make. And you can just look at all the revisions on the left side to give you a different picture, a different view of how things went. So that's compare documents with the legal document Blackline. And take some time out, practice what you've learned, pause the video, and then come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's get started in lesson 18. Search and highlight. There are times you want to search for important areas or things in your document that you want to have highlighted so you can see them as you visualize it through the document. So let's take a look at the navigation pane, because that has simplified everything now. We'll go to the View tab and we'll go to Navigation pane. So there's the navigation pane. So we talked earlier about dealing with this in styles. You can navigate through the document because headings were all used through here, and that's what the headings tab is about in here. So I'm going to go back to the top. If you go to pages, it has some pages in there, just all the pages of the document for now. And then there's results to show you the search results. So let's take a look at just searching. I'm going to close this. I want to show you that, we went to view and navigation pane before to find where the navigation pane was. Back to the home tab, to the far right side of the ribbon, I'm going to choose find. I'm just going to click find, and that's going to activate the navigation pane. And it goes to the results. That's how things have changed in the program from the old find and replace. But anyway, so the idea is I want to find something in the document. Here we go. So I'm going to type in Hildebrandt. I know that's all over this place. Hildebrandt. So it's finding Hildebrandt in the document, and you can see the results for lots of different places. So I can click on each place where it is in this panel, and it'll show me where that is in the document. It'll just navigate me to that place. And these are just the long string of results. I can go over to the pages, and I can navigate to all the highlighted areas. I can click on page 1, or if it's in the table of contents, or if I can go to page 2. And you can just look in the pages to see that it even has that. And back to results. So you can do a long string, or you can go to pages to help you navigate through to find that specific item. Let's try a different search and see what happens. So I'll click in there under Hildebrandt. So now I'm going to say legal. All right, just turn that in so it found 4 pages with legal. I can just look at the results and just navigate through each page and find legal. Or go to pages for a broader search. Sure makes it easier. So that's basically the searching and highlighting. So take some time, pause the video, practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's get started in lesson 19, generating a table of contents. I'm in the file My Annual Hildebrandt, so feel free to open that one. So we're going to be talking about the table of contents, which takes us over to the References tab. In table of contents, if I just click on the drop-down menu, and you can see the built-in table of contents down there, they all say heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. So basically what's going on when we talked earlier about styles, the styles lesson, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3 is what helps generate the table of contents. In other words, it doesn't matter what the style is, as long as the style is called heading 1, heading 2, or heading 3, and then it shows the different indents based on those heading numbers. So this particular document already has a table of contents. So I'm going to double click on the table of contents, and I'll just try to, sometimes it gets a little buggy, so I'll click in there, so I'll come back, double clicking, there it is. So that's a field, that's a table of contents field that's been replaced, put in there. So when it's a field, we can choose to update this field. So this table of contents is going to be automatically generated by those heading numbers. And then when you add other documents into the file, if they're using those heading styles, then you can update the entire table. And that way, depending on what page numbers they fall under or where you place it, the whole table is updated based on the inserting of the other document. Pretty fantastic. So let's go ahead and delete this table of contents. And I'll make sure that the whole thing gets out of here. And we'll begin on that page. So let's go to References, Table of Contents, and we'll use Custom Table of Contents at the bottom of that list. This gives you some flexibility to choose. So we want to show the page numbers. We want to right align the page numbers. And you can change, I'm going to keep the default tab leader, but you can change tab leaders as you can see. And this is basically created from a template. Now there is a web preview here where it shows use hyperlinks instead of page numbers. We're not necessarily putting this on the web, so I'm going to uncheck that. And we also have the navigation pane to navigate also. So now we can just go ahead and click OK and replace the table of contents. What it thinks is in there, we'll click OK. So there we go. So we added the table of contents. And all the indentations are based on the sections. So to our stakeholders, this is heading 1. The next achievements is heading 2. And the legal issues is heading 2. So it's based on the heading level as opposed to the indent. And, you know, it matches the heading level to the indent levels. Okay. So there you have it, generating a table of contents. So take some time, pause the video, practice what you've learned, and come back and join us for some new learning. Welcome back. Let's get started with lesson 21, creating a pleading index. So it's basically a table, but it's going to be used to create an order of development for the documents. So we'll go to the Insert tab, and go to the tables. I'm going to go ahead and just choose Insert Table, just another way to make tables. I'm going to make sure that I have 4 columns. I'll put in 4 columns, tab down to 20 rows, or yeah, maybe 21 rows. So then I'll select the header column and give it a bold format. Center align it. And start typing in the label. So it'll have a number, tab over party, tab over pleading, or description, and a date. And let's see if I do this. I'm going to cut this for a minute. I'm going to cut it and just move down a little bit here. Paste it down below. So at the top here, I also want to have some information. Give it a pleading index. Name of the case. And the name of the county. Okay, now I can select those all and center align. And just get a little bigger. Okay. I might put some like a little placeholder or something in there. Just to get an idea where you can type the name of your case or the name of your county. And I'm going to put some numbers in here. Almost done. Get about 20 lines in there. And I'll save this. Pleading index. Okay. And there's your pleading index. So save this and pause your video. Practice what you've learned and come back to join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's get started with lesson 22, using words and legal templates. And as normal in all templates, we're in a blank document, so we're going to go to the File tab, find the New command, and this is where all the templates that are happening. You see some current ones I've been in up here, and then there's online templates. So you can just search for online templates. So one of the ways I found the legal pleading paper was to just search under templates. I'm going to type legal. Easy way to get there. So the common legal templates you'll see, like the attorney resume, legal pleading paper, which we've been working in, new company setup check, tenant notice. So let's open up the legal pleading paper to give it a little reminder. So I was using this earlier when we didn't have any data inside the paper, but this was the pleading paper I used. And this is when we were dealing with lining up the text to the numbers. And so remember, we had to deal with double space and single space and change it to exactly 24 and exactly 12. So there are some things with using these that you have to kind of take into consideration. But these are available for you through Microsoft Word, and it should be in your under File and New, and this is where you'll find them hanging out. So take some time to pause your video, practice a little bit of what you learned, and then come back and join us for some more learning. Welcome back. Let's get started with lesson 23, constructing custom legal templates. I'm looking at a file called modified ready for template. Not a template yet, but it's lined up. You remember we did the pleading paper and worked on the aligning the text that aligns pleading lines. And so this is a template that was based off the Microsoft templates that was double spaced. And you remember we did exact spacing at size 24. So this has been modified. So basically we took the Microsoft pleading paper and lined everything up instead of double space, put it correct to 24, exactly 24 points. And then we're ready to go. But you also remember when we went to insert earlier in the lessons and we talked about quick parts, and in quick parts we had some different captions and things we put in there. So you can have custom quick parts in here ready to go that you can plug into some other of these custom pleading paper. So you can just do different things like this and save them as templates in the end. And so let's take a look at where these go as a template. So the idea is to set the paper up so the pleading lines are in order, and that you can have captions, different captions that you can plug in as you need to. Save them as a template. So the idea is the template, just save it as your F12 function key does a save as dialog box. So when you do this, you just basically take the drop down menu next to save as type and go to where it says Word template. So in Word template, it has in this case I have a new folder, but we're going to create one of those. So I'm going to create a new folder. I'll call it Rick's Templates, so I can separate those from others. I'll double click on that. So it's going to the Documents, Custom Office Templates, and Rick's Templates folder. The reason that you save it as that first, because it automatically directs you to the template folder. So now we can just call this my pleading template. I'll save it. Okay. And I'll close this. So how do I find it? I go to File and New. And then you'll see the personal choice in here. I'll choose Personal. And there's the Rick's Templates folder that I created. So in there's my pleading template. I'll open it up. And now it's known as Document 6, but everything's set up, lined up okay. And there you go. So Pause the video, take some time to practice what you learned, and come back and join us for the conclusion. I'd like to thank you for spending this time with me to explore Word for Law offices. So start setting up your document styles and auto text elements. Create your pleading papers with correct spacing. Review tracking changes and compare documents with the legal Blackline option. Go work with some tables of authorities and create some time-saving templates. And when you're ready, come join us for some more learning.